Yo,
What's good, bro? How you doing?
Thank you for having me, brother.
Welcome to my home, man.
Appreciate
Come on in.
Thank you.
Going this way, man. Step into the home office.
All right.
Sometimes we eat here, and sometimes we cook here.
Okay, appreciate it, Doc. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thank you for considering me.
Okay, thanks again. Thanks for having me, JP. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Talk to me. What we talking?
Let's just get started. So, describe how you got in the music industry, how you met Nip, how did this all start?
Okay, well, it was a culmination of events that led to me being where I'm at right now at this point. I'd have to say my career kind of kick-started with eBay.
Okay.
Right? So a lot of people figure that I kind of entered the game through photography, and that was kind of an entry point for me, but I think there's a bunch of different things that kind of led up to me having an actual camera in my possession.
Okay.
So I graduated high school in 2005, but prior to that, in 2003, 2002, early.
Yeah.
Right, I was in 9th, 10th grade. I decided I wanted to, I had friends that would come with kicks and all types of clothes, and everybody was in the Nietzsche and Fat Farm and FUBU, Air Forces, and then the Air Forces with designer prints on them. And I'm like, man, I want in on that too. I didn't come from an affluent upbringing. So I'm like, let me figure out how I can, buy these things for myself, because I wasn't going to be able to ask my parents.
Right.
Or at least I naively did, and that's kind of what led me into a couple different things. So I said, all right, well, I wanted to buy the Jordan 17s. They used to come in the case, and it was, it was just a beautiful shoe. Mike was playing on the Wizards at that point.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want the Jordan 17s. I need it. Plus, a good friend of mine, Danny, he had the Jordan 17s, and I'm like, yeah, I definitely need that. Those would look great on the hardwood, because I played basketball in high school.
Okay.
So I, naively asked my parents, hey, let's go to the mall. I want to check out these sneakers, right? And they see the shoes, oh, they're nice. Obviously I'm excited. I'm like thinking that we're about to seal the deal. And, we kind of find out the price tag is $200, which at that time, at least to my understanding from what I was following, I used to go on these different sneaker forums, namely Nike Talk. There's no sneaker for $200, no Jordan brand sneaker.
Right.
So this was kind of like setting new precedents for prices. Now these days, 200 is like
that's regular now.
Regular
Yeah.
is the average price, but then it was, it's a chunky, price tag for something. So they told me, hey, you know what? We can't afford these. And I was like, all right, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not the first time they say we can't afford something, right?
Heard that before.
Not a problem. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to take it upon myself to put myself in position to buy these things that I want, namely those sneakers. Let's start off there.
Right.
So what I told them, well, I'm, like the rest of my colleagues, people in school, like I want to get a part-time job. My parents say, no, we don't want you to, get a part-time job and get, distracted from school, one. Right. And two, I came to find out that the reality of my legal situation dawned on me, and that's I was undocumented.
Right.
So it's not as easy to even go get a job at a burger spot as it was for my peers.
Right.
So it's all right. Well, now I have to find loopholes.
Right.
And that was probably the greatest thing to happen for me, because in having to find loopholes, you become super resourceful, and you find answers where sometimes there aren't answers, readily available. You make answers, right?
Right.
And that was a key moment for me, moving forward. Now that I knew kind of the variables that, that I had in my court, so to speak. So what I started doing my research online, and I did a couple different things. One was buying and reselling sneakers. Okay. But not like to this crazy, I didn't have that much capital to invest. So, from one sneaker to two sneakers to two sneakers to three sneakers, three sneakers to four. But it probably never went above like 30, 40 sneakers.
Okay.
I didn't get that deep in that game. But when I was involved in that game, I used to go on an online forum called NikeTalk.com.
Okay.
And on NikeTalk.com, there was a bunch of different players in that game, right? People that were influential because of the sneakers that they had, people that were influential because of, the contributions that they put on posts, like original content or curated content.
Mm-hmm.
There was one guy that kept, popping up, consistently above everybody, and that was Ben Baller.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everybody in that forum was like curious who this guy was. Some people knew him well because he used to host what were called I think they were Nike Talk Summits, and they would be like gatherings of online forum members at a sporting event, like say a Dodger game, and everybody, like a group of 30, 40 guys would get together with Ben and link up, have some beers, drink some, or eat some hot dogs, grab some beers, and that type of stuff. So I kind of reached out to Ben at some point and was like, hey, what is it that you do? Mm-hmm. And initially, in all honesty, he brushed me off. I was kind of taken aback by that. I was like, okay, I don't have anything to offer that's of use to him.
Right.
And that's just the way the world works, right? Even at that age, I understood it. So I kind of just played the bag, did my eBay thing, sold sneakers, skipped prom, bought the Jordan 4s. I used to sell.
So, you skipped prom to buy the Jordan 4s?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you was on a hustler mentality back then.
Yeah, and it's not one part of it was just an entrepreneurial spirit, but one was out of necessity and not necessity, and I'm not going to be the guy that gives you a sob story and it's like, oh, I grew up in a one-bedroom home and all of us slept in one bed. It was my sister, my mom,
right.
My grandma, my dad, and I slept in one bedroom. It's not. We didn't lack anything that we needed.
Right.
It was more so the things that I wanted.
That you wanted, okay.
And living in the U.S. and living in L.A. specifically, you're gonna want for a lot of things, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that
your friends going to school with the Jays.
For sure.
They drop.
The things, we're super spoiled here on the West Coast and in L.A. because things are tangible, and it's not like it's like a 1 degree of separation to something, right? Mm-hmm. So when you talk about $1 million homes or multi-million dollar salaries or whatever the case may be, exotic cars, like these things are like you can get them. They're hop, skip, and a jump. Mm-hmm. You can't say the same thing for people outside of LA. If you live in Middle America,
right.
Those things, you don't see a Lambo, you don't see a Ferrari, you don't see a Benz driving around.
Right. You may see a goat or a camel or something like that.
I don't know if to that extreme, but this it's a different lifestyle.
You're not gonna see a Tesla driving.
So to bring it back, right? Mm-hmm. I had my camera with, I used to sell sneakers and I bought like a consumer level, not even an SLR, just a consumer level digital camera.
Right.
And with that camera, I would shoot my sneakers, because on eBay, it's all about presentation. And really, in any type of commerce, it's about presentation.
Right.
And when it comes to sneakers, multiple sellers are offering the same sneaker, right? So it's a matter of how you present it, right? Mm-hmm. And here's an interesting thing. When I was selling on eBay, my username, and I told Nipsey this as well, was I Hustle. Right? Mm-hmm. How crazy is that? That later, many years down the line, that ended up came full circle and became our online platform for our first independent offering, which was the marathon. Right? But there's always little indicators like that throughout life that you see early on that you kind of have to have your antennas up, so that when you get when you get to a certain point, you're like, oh, that's why that happened, or that's why that happened. All of these things have been in been working in perfect unison without you knowing it, right? And I think you always hear about these people talk about the world conspiring in their favor, and I think that there's a lot of truth to that. I think we all experience it to different degrees or realize it at different points, but for me at this point, at 30 years old, antennas are wide up. So, not to get too sidetracked, right? So the sneakers, used to have my camera with me, used to take it everywhere. Not with the intention of becoming a photographer. It's more so like, now I have a digital camera in my possession and I want to shoot photos, right? And there was a platform for it. This was before, there was the Flickr accounts or the whatever other platforms there was. Yeah. At the time, it was MySpace. So I used to use MySpace, right? I put my images up and people would see it, and that was that. So through meeting Ben Baller, years prior to this. So this was around 2007, 2008. I talked to Ben. Then we kind of rekindled, or excuse me, this was prior to that. This was like 2004. We reconnect around 2006. He's doing his business with his cousins.
I think I missed the part where you guys connected because.
We connected through online forum through AOL Instant Messenger,
right? Okay.
Which is the platform that everybody used to use. Whether it was on your Sidekick or whether it was on your desktop or laptop.
Right.
That was the means of communication.
Right, I remember that.
So he had his username public on the forum. We got in contact through that. And like I said, the first time got brushed off. Second time, I approached him because I saw a bulletin that he posted on MySpace, which is, you familiar with the bulletin?
No, I'm not.
Okay, did you use MySpace?
Yeah.
So basically it's like when you post something on your story and you're soliciting, either a service or requesting a service or announcing whatever it is you want to announce. That was it was like the story before the Facebook story before the Facebook story existed.
Okay.
So Bulletin was powerful, and he said, "Hey, I'm looking for someone to consolidate, 300 images that I have on my page into thumbnails that can be presented on the platform." So at this point, on MySpace, a lot of people were doing very standard HTML coding, right? Very simple HTML, but people were learning. I don't know if people do it anymore on other platforms because they don't permit it. Instagram, you can't do HTML coding.
Right.
Facebook, you can't do HTML coding. But MySpace, you can get creative.
Yep.
Sometimes overly creative.
Whole pages were just coded out.
Yeah, and I know people that made careers off of designing MySpace pages. Made some good money, and that they parlayed that into something else. So in doing that, I said, "Hey, I can consolidate your 300 images for you. Just give me a couple hours." So I coded all of those images into, I think 3 or 4 columns of thumbnails on this page, and that's how we established a relationship. It was like, all right, cool, you're useful to me.
Yep.
Which understandable for one, the age difference, experience, and career. Like I had no foot into the game up until that point. I just had raw talent that was untapped. Motivation. So we established a relationship. And from that, he introduced me to a couple different people. He introduced me to Ski and Game.
Okay.
And they were both working on a project called the Black Wall Street Journal, Volume 1, which that project featured a lot of great talent like Clyde Carson, Kendrick, J-Rock,
I remember.
your boy, who now YB, the rock star from the Bay, and a multitude of other artists, that have flourished in their career since then, right? So that was my introduction into the music game through Ben Baller. Ben Baller was the guy that,
He had already had relationships.
He already had relationships with a lot of people, having dealt in music, and now at that point, around 2006, 2007, doing the jewelry, custom jewelry with his family at the Slauson Mall.
Right.
He brought his relationships from music into what they were doing, and vice versa. And obviously, you know what that is. IF&Co is huge, and it's kind of like the standard here on the West Coast, for when you come and get your jewelry. You get custom made jewelry. You check in with Ben Baller and IF&Co.
It's official.
Exactly. So he introduces me to Game and Ski, and with Game and Ski, I kind of develop independent relationships, just documenting, flying the wall. So that kind of introduced my photography style. And mind you, I know these days, we see a lot of photographers have access to events or to studios and stuff like that. That wasn't necessarily the case at that point in 2006, 2007. It would literally just be myself, and that's it. At this point, we go to studio sessions, you see multiple photographers or videographers. So it was just different times. So
right, yeah.
For me, it was super exciting because I've always had, an interest and a love and passion for rap music, but I just didn't have any involvement. I didn't have any family members, any cousins, friends. It just happened. I've always been an artistic person, and the camera was a tool to create. Right. Because I was never really much. I didn't do music in the sense I didn't rap. I didn't produce. I didn't work in an administrative end. So this was my contribution, is documenting it, and bringing my aesthetic to it.
Okay.
So that's how I got involved in.
Which qualities do you feel led Nipsey Hussle to deciding you'd be a good fit for his road manager?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of Nipsey. You know, you'd have to ask Nipsey about what qualities he saw in me. But I think the things that make me capable of holding that responsibility, you know, and answering to my team when questions are put forth, you know, and things are needed to be done. I think the certain administrative qualities that I possess, you know, that help. You know, I'm an email head. I like to eat every morning.
So you're just on top of that.
I sit for an hour to 2 hours answering emails, going back and forth. Everyone might laugh at this, but I use this thing a lot now. You know,
That thing's been smoking.
this thing's been smoking, but
Okay.
this is a good thing to get things done for those long calls.
Okay.
I also say I'm logistic driven.
Okay.
You know, and as far as being a role manager or being endowed with that type of responsibility, like you're not moving just with one person, but you're moving with multiple people. So it's making sure that everybody's talents are being pushed forward,
Mm-hmm.
you know, on the platform that we have, and making sure that for the artist, for Nipsey, that everything is as smooth as possible.
Right.
That he doesn't have to scramble and try to figure things out for me.
You've
I have to figure those things out for him because that's the responsibility he endowed me with, and the team has, you know, give the privilege that they've given me.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we go out on the road, I got to bring the bag back and make sure that it makes sense for Nipsey and it makes sense for the team,
Right.
and all the assets and resources that are needed in every city that we go to are ready.
Already
You know,
ready and thought of.
or if they're not, they're at a dial away.
Right.
Because I'm the one that's responsible for that.
Okay. Cool. Karen Civil is one of your partners at the Marathon Agency. How did you meet Karen Civil?
Karen Civil, I was introduced to by Nipsey.
Okay.
And how did I know she was going to be a good partner?
Yeah. How did you know she was gonna be a good partner?
I didn't. But this is the genius of Nipsey. Nipsey is an architect, and Nipsey knows how to seek out talent. Case in point, how he found my talent, and we were able to gel well together and plug into the machine that he already had running with Sam, Adam, and Fats.
Right.
So I can't take the credit for any of that stuff. Those introductions, I think, is more
That's his
so
genius.
Nipsey's genius in putting people together and putting talents that complement each other around him and around his team. So Karen, I mean, I was well aware of who Karen was. You know, she was already making big waves and
doing her thing on the East Coast.
doing her thing on the East Coast, and then furthermore when she came out here to LA. So
Absolutely.
I know anybody that Nipsey brings to the table, they're certified.
Absolutely.
You know, because Nipsey doesn't play any games with anybody and like, hey, I'm going to put you in position. I want to bring you into this. I want to bring you into that. Like once he brings someone in, it's like it's pretty certain that this person's going to be around for a while.
Right. Good judge of character.
For sure.
All right. With All Money In, were there any strategies in terms of the album rollout that you may not have believed in terms of the $100 album or even the $1,000 album?
Me personally, no. I mean, I know it was contested amongst the team. You know, like, hey, is this the best idea? Because you're venturing into uncharted waters when you're
Right.
talking about a $100 album.
Right.
But I think the way that Nipsey presented the concept brought, you know, that idea to become a reality amongst the team, because it's like, look, what do we have to lose? We have a great product. We have an engaged audience. And it's by choice. It's never by force, right? In other words, meaning we offered it just like we did with Mailbox Money on that PIF. It was free.
Exactly.
You can buy it on iTunes if you like, or you can buy the $100 numbered edition Proud to Pay copy.
Right. I think that's
So
right.
me personally, I never had any doubt about it.
Okay.
And I stood behind it. I'm familiar with the audience that we have, and it's unique. I don't know if just anybody can do that same type of move and be successful at it, but I was pretty confident Nipsey could do it.
I mean, with you being on the Crenshaw tour, you were able to see pretty much the fans, and just you knew that there were people out there proud to pay, right?
For sure, but that was after the fact that the Crenshaw album had been released.
Oh, yeah, that's
so with
true.
Mailbox Money, it was kind of already like
Yeah,
confirmed.
you already knew.
You know, but even so, we didn't go up. We didn't double the price. We didn't triple it. We did 10 times. We did $1,000 album. So that was super unique in its nature. We upped the ante by 10 times. So
Yeah, and sold 60 copies.
yeah, so there was a level of like, can lightning strike twice?
Right.
You know, and that's pretty natural, but it did, and we've met people, you know, on the road before. Obviously, with the platform that we use, the disruptive multimedia with Ryan Leslie, that allows us to track who's purchased what and how much, and at what point they purchased or how much they spend per year. And I'll give you a perfect example of it. When we went to Louisville, there was a couple of realizations in Louisville. I think it was in the middle of winter, it was snowing, and I had set up a pop-up shop in a store that was completely unassuming in the sense that it wasn't like this cool, ritzy boutique store like we have on the East Coast or on the West Coast, you know?
Right, yeah.
It was entirely unique to Louisville, you know, like just as much as they had Giuseppe's, they had what seemed like off-brand Versace shirts. So it was a mixture of both. And we were kind of like discouraged at first, like, man, there's only like 30 or 40 people here. Like, is this a good look?
Yeah,
is it not a good look? Because we did stuff in big cities like New York and Boston, and you have lines wrapped around the block, but this was a much shorter line. There was a couple of lessons to be learned there.
Okay.
The Nipsey Hussle brand is driven by quality, not quantity, right? And what I mean by that is we can be in much larger markets where there's more people that come out to our in-store events that will come out to, you know, to shake his hand, grab a picture, express their appreciation for the music, and maybe make a purchase of a hat, or maybe not, or maybe make a purchase of a shirt, or maybe not.
Right.
But in Louisville, it was a completely different, you know, it showed how quality trumped quantity, because it was 40 people, and those 40 people were just as valuable as a 200, 300, you know,
Absolutely.
in the other city. And those same 400, in those same 40 people, there was one girl, you know, who told us her story. She was like, hey, you know, my mom passed away because of cancer, and your music really got me, you know, I listened to the marathon and projects that followed it, and that music really helped me get through those hard times. And we verified on Disruptive Multimedia, and sure enough, it was her.
Wow.
So we actually invited her to come to the show and meet with us beforehand, and it was a cool experience. But the point is,
just getting data on your fan before the streaming services. You guys were up on it before people were getting all that.
Super, for sure. And I think Nipsey's always been working his brand and business in that direction. And I think, you know, and connecting with Ryan, that kind of helped us get further analytics and confirm, you know, suspicions that we already had early on.
It's lock in on key areas that you know.
For sure.
Yeah. So you mentioned you were on the Crenshaw tour. What was your role on the Crenshaw tour?
My role on the Crenshaw tour was officially photographer, you know, to document. Unofficially, like every other person on that bus, Nipsey included, was get shit done. Right. So I designed the set with Nipsey. Okay. Right. We designed it was a 3-piece set, nothing too sophisticated or fancy, but it served its purpose. Right. And we brought Crenshaw and Slauson in visual form, stagnant visual form, but visual form nonetheless, you know, across the country.
That's true.
So
they felt it. It
was, I guess, stage design and setup, photography, and then whatever other things I could lend my talents to. In this case, I mean, helping break down the merge booth with D and Fats, God rest his soul. Whatever other capacity I could help. Hey, we need to get this done. Okay, cool. Let's get it done. And everybody operated under that same philosophy. I think that's what That's why the team is successful, because no one believes that they're above the team, and no one feels like, oh well, that's not my job description, or that's not what I'm getting paid for, or that's not what, that's not my skill set. It's like, no, I'm gonna figure it out, because that's how Nipsey operates, and his expectation is for his team to operate in the same capacity.
Exactly, got to be able to figure it out. All right, Nipsey Hussle and All Money In has always promoted financial responsibility, such as investing in yourself and maintaining ownership. Why did you guys think that the company, as a company, decided to promote that lifestyle?
Okay, I think there's a couple of tiers to that answer. I think the first one is, as a team, no one came from a family of means or from an affluent upbringing, so we've all had to be resourceful in one form or facet. Some extremes more for some people and less for others, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as a team, collectively, I think we've always had to be resourceful. Just coming up, either everyone independently in their personal lives, or and doing music and operating, from 2010 forward until present day with the announcement as an independent entity. So I think in being and kind of championing the idea of financial responsibility, I think that's something. I mean, Nipsey Hussle can't be Nipsey Hussle if he doesn't not only celebrate his successes but his strategy.
Right.
And I think that's what people gravitate to. Nipsey is just by nature a motivator.
Right.
His classification of music, we've said it before, is yes, it's rap and it's hip hop, but if you were to put it into its own genre, it's marathon music. And that's kind of what from 2010 forward, that was kind of the philosophy or the mindset that we had. Like, we're gonna create marathon music, and that's what he does. He makes music that not only inspires but educates, and that's why I feel so invested into what we do as a team,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like there has to be an end game for this, right? There has to be, why am I doing this?
Right.
Is it for money? Not solely for money. Is it solely to entertain? That type of stuff, I think, gets old after a while. But is it to inspire and educate? That's the higher purpose,
Right.
And I think that's what keeps the team motivated to continue to reach new heights and innovate. It's how do we reach more people with the messaging that we have at hand,
Yeah.
Whether it's a Nipsey project, or whether it's a BH project, or whether it's a Kabi project, or whether it's a Pac-Man, or whether it's a J-Stone.
Mm-hmm.
That platform is built so that we can spread that message of marathon music, which is celebrating not only your success and triumphs, but also your tragedies and the things that took to get to that point.
Right.
And also, telling people, hey, don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It's
a marathon.
It's a marathon.